Uh, can we start now? We have about 22 students logging in. Can we wait for 3 minutes, or can we start? Let's wait for another 2 minutes, then can get everyone on board. Right, we have 25 members. So let's start the lesson today. And again, good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to another session of Diploma in Retail Banking program, where I'm going to talk about the retail banking channels and digital banking modules. My name is Indika Galapade, and currently I'm heading the cards and digital banking business in STB Bank. Before I start the session, I'd like to tell you all that this session is not much of a theory lesson. So there's a little bit of theory, but this is more of an interactive session and idea sharing session that I like to conduct with you all, because the subject that we are talking is evolving every minute, and what we discuss maybe a few years ago or a few weeks ago can be no use, or it can be only a experience that we all have to share. But the subject that we are focusing is more of a future of the banking industry, and as you are going to be the forefront of the banking industry in the country, so I like you all to be participative in more engagement with the session, so that we can have a good session, as well as we can take out a lot of understanding, learnings, and share our experiences with each and everyone. And before I move into the presentation, I would like to tell you that the subject that we are discussing has it has been what I'm going to share is a lot of my experience which I have gained over the last 12 to 13 years in the banking industry. Just to give you a bit of a context, my first interaction with a bank, it's a bit of a I wouldn't say a planned activity or unplanned, but it has a chain of activities in my life. So my first experience in the banking industry, or rather transaction industry, has actually became when I was schooling in Kandy. One of my teacher actually gave me some money to go and deposit in a bank. It's an international bank also, HSBC. So while I was walking into the bank, I just realized, okay, this may be the first time that I'm going to do a banking transaction with a bank, because all these previous time our parents have either deposited money, or it's at the school that we have gone and done the deposits into the school collection point. But at that point, so while I was walking to the HSBC, I was looking around and say, okay, where should I go and deposit the money? Then I quickly move into the security person and ask, මේ මට සල්ලි වගේ deposit කරන්න ඕනේ, මම කොහෙද මේ සල්ලි කොහොමද දාන්නේ කියලා. Then he said, he actually guided me to a counter, and I was waited in the queue for about 2 or 3 minutes, because there was 2 people in front of me. And while I when my chance came into the deposit the money, a girl in the counter said, I gave her the money, and she said, "This is a credit card deposit." Then she told me, "You can go and do it in the machine." I was quite furious. I didn't have any experience of how can I do this deposit in a machine. And I said, "Will you just help me to do that?" Then another person walked into me, and then he showed me where the deposit machine is, and helped me to do the deposit. But I was curious because it was not my money. It was someone else's money that I have to deposit into an account, and depositing into a machine. And they gave me a receipt, but it was I was not very pleased with the experience. But I was really I had a different, unexpected experience with the entire situation. Um, then I went back from the branch, and next day I handed over the receipt to the teacher and said, I explained him the situation. This is what happened. I said, okay, okay, that's how you deposit the money in that bank account. Then I realized, okay, there's new things happening in the market. So while I was waiting in the queue for about 1 or 2 minutes, the machine was there without any person. So there, I would have actually saved about 2 or 3 minutes if I knew the exact thing to do. Few years down the line, when I joined HSBC Bank, that was about after let's say 5 or 6 years. My first appointment was to promote and handle the retail banking channel. At that time, it was called delivery channels. So, and today I'm doing the my first lecture to you all, and it is about the same topic. So I guess there's something following me with these delivery channels and digital banking. So that's what I want to share with you all at the beginning, and I'm very happy to share my experiences, the knowledge, and the ideas that I have gained over the couple of years. And I like you all also to be participative in this panel to discuss more and more about what we have to learn in this new retail banking and digital banking subject. Please do ask any questions or any you share while I was presenting, because in that way we can have more and more of a interactive session. And also I like to conduct this in Sinhala and English both way. I hope that is okay with everyone, so that we can have a more of an interactive session. So let me now go into the content. Is that okay with you all? Right, okay. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, but not in the presentation mode, sir.
It's not in the presentation. Okay. Is it in the presentation mode now?
Not yet. We can see all slides in one.
When I go into the presentation mode, it doesn't come up very well. Anyway, shall we continue like this? If it's okay with you?
It's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Uh, okay, our topic for today is I think you all have completed about 8 modules in this program. And our topic for today and for next week is retail banking channel and digital banking, where I'm going to have a discussion with you all about how. Hold on for a second. Let me go. Anyway, let's continue like this. Otherwise, it will be will be wasting some time.
Yeah, yes, sir. It's okay.
And in this context, in the module 9 and 10, I'll be talking about how what are the physical distribution channels and alternative distribution channels and new players in the field. And also there is another point that I've added into the middle. What are the technologies that are being used in the retail banking channel that is to facilitate all these physical and alternative delivery channels. So by moving into our next slide, as you'll have to excuse me for a moment because it's not moving. Give me 2 minutes. Menaka is actually coming to assist me on this, so give me 2 minutes. Okay. Sorry about the technical failure. Hope everyone can see the screen now.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, okay. Let's move into the content. So in module 10, we'll be talking about the digital bank, the newest trend and the the fast-growing industry, the subject in the banking industry. So we'll be talking about evolution of digital business, type of services that has been that are currently being used, and what would be the services that our customers expecting in the years to come. And one main important point, AML and compliance framework, because this is something that everyone has to seriously look into, and also the opportunities that are coming up, especially with the new normalities that we are currently facing, and also future development and the scopes, how we as bankers in the industry can look into the customer requirements and do the developments and the scope that we have to work in. All these subjects will be talked about in the next module. So before I move into, I actually wanted to do this as a presentation with some effects, but unfortunately it doesn't appear to be working on the Microsoft. So what exactly banking channel means? The description of banking channel means the method by which bank may from time to time make available the services to a user through business 24 service. What does exactly mean? අතරම මේකේ මොකක්ද අදහස් කරන්නේ? අපි මේක තව ටිකක් සරල කරලා තේරුම් ගන්න උත්සාහ කරොත් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් බැංකින් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකේ තියෙන නෝම් එකක් තමයි බැංකුව ඇරලා තියෙන්නේ උදේ 9 ඉඳන් හවස 3 වෙනකන්. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ කාලය ඇතුළත අපි කේට කරන කස්ටමර් බේස් එකට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් සපුරා ගන්න පුළුවන් කාලය බැලුවොත් දවසේ පැය 24න් හරිම සීමිත කාලයක්. ඒ කියන්නේ පැය 6ක වගේ කාලයක් තමයි කස්ටමර්ස්ලාට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ බැංකින් නීඩ්ස් සපුරා ගන්න පුළුවන් කාලයක් විදිහට තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අද ලෝකේ සහ මීට දැන් අවුරුදු කීපයකට කලින් වුණත් බැලුවොත් ලෝකේ මේ බැංකුයි සම්බන්ධ ගනුදෙනු වලදී මෙන්න මේ කාලය කියන එක හරිම වැදගත් වුණා. මොකද මිනිස්සුන්ගේ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් වලට අනුව අපි ඒගොල්ලන් එක්ක ගනුදෙනු කරනවා නම් මෙන්න මේ restricted banking hours කියන එක හරිම ගැටලුවක් වුණා එක පැත්තකින් බැංකු වලට සහ ඒ වගේම ඒ සම්බන්ධ ගනුදෙනු කරන ගනුදෙනුකරුවන්ට. ඉතින් මෙන්න මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට විසඳුමක් වශයෙන් තමයි මේ channels. ඒ කියන්නේ ගනුදෙනුකරුවෙක්ට බැංකුවක් හා සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන් විදි මොනවද, ක්‍රම මොනවද කියන එක සම්බන්ධව බැංකු සහ ඒ අදාළ සම්බන්ධ ශේෂ්ත්‍රවල පුද්ගලයන් හොයා බලන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. ඉතින් මෙන්න මේ අවශ්‍යතාවයත් එක්ක තේරුම් ගියා මිනිස්සුන්ගේ අපි උදාහරණයක් වශයෙන් ගත්තොත් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් රැකියාවක් කරන පුද්ගලයෙක් ගත්තොත් එයා උදේ 8:00ට වෙන දිගට සමහරලාට හවස 5ට ඔෆ් වෙනකොට එයාට බැංකුවකට ගිහිල්ලා එයාගේ ගනුදෙනු කරගන්න පුළුවන් කාලය හරි සීමිතයි. මොකද එයා යනවා නම් බැංක් එකකට ගිහිල්ලා එයාගේ වැඩක් කරගන්නවා නම් එයා ඔෆිස් එකට ලීව් එකක් දාලා හරි නැත්නම් ෂෝට් ලීව් එකක් දාලා ගිහිල්ලා එයාගේ කටයුතු ටික කරගන්නවා. අපි සරල උදාහරණයක් ගත්තොත් සල්ලි විත්ඩ්‍රෝ කරගන්න වගේ වැඩකට. ඉතින් මේ වගේ දෙයකටත් එයාට ලීව් එකක් දාන්න වෙනවා නම් එයා මේ බැංකුවත් එක්ක තියෙන ගනුදෙනු කරන්න තියෙන කැමැත්ත අඩු වෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ දෙයාගේ අවශ්‍යතාවයේ සමහරක් විට මුදල් ලබා ගැනීම එයා හවසට ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා ගෙදර යනකොට බඩු ටිකක් අරගෙන යන්න වගේ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් මෙන්න මේ වගේ සරල සිම්පල් කේස් ස්ටඩීස් අධ්‍යයනය කරලා තමයි මේ business 24 service කියන ටර්ම් එක මේ බැංකින් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකට ආවේ. එතකොට මේ පැය 24ක් ඇතුළත කොහොමද ගනුදෙනුකරුවෙක්ට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ transaction banking නැත්නම් ගනුදෙනු කිරීමට අවශ්‍ය පහසුකම් සලසන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එකත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධයෙන් තමයි මේ channel banking නැත්නම් banking channels කියන එක බිහි වුනේ. ඒකට මූලික වශයෙන් ගත්තොත් අපි බැංකුවක් සමග ගනුදෙනු කිරීමේදී channels මුල් කාලේ කියන්නේ banking field එක ලංකාවේ evolve වෙන්න පටන් ගත්තට පස්සේ මුලින්ම අපිට තිබ්බේ මේ branch banking කියන concept එක. මේ branch banking කියන concept එකේ අද වෙනකොට සෑහෙන දුරට මේක evolve වෙලා තියෙන මේක පටන් ගත්ත stage එකේ ඉඳන් ඒක banking industry එකේ ඉන්න ඕගොල්ලන් උනත් හොඳටම අත්විඳින එකක් තමයි. මෙතන branch එකක් කියන concept එක අපි පටන් ගත්ත මුල් කාලේ තිබ්බට වඩා දැන් තියෙන විදිහට කොහොමද වෙනස් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියන එක. ඒතර මේකේ මම identify කරගෙන තියෙනවා මූලික areas 8ක්. ඒක number 1 branch banking, ඊළඟට mobile banking, ATM, CDM, CRM, ඒ වගේ technology based machines කොහොමද මේ customer servicing වලට ආවේ. ඊළඟට phone banking, tele banking, self service kiosk, internet banking, online banking, එහෙම නැත්නම් e-banking කියන මෙන්න මේ internet based banking. ඊළඟට contact center අපි නැත්නම් call center කියලා අපි කියනවා. සහ POS, point of sale and QR, quick response code. මෙන්න මේ ප්‍රධාන අංග 8 අද ලෝකේ සෑහෙන්න බැංකින් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකේ දියුණුවට බලපාලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි මේ එකින් එක ගැන පොඩ්ඩක් අපි තව ටිකක් විස්තරාත්මකව ඉස්සරහට කතා කරමු. එතකොට මේ සෙෂන් එකේදී අපි ඇත්තටම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ එක එක channels වලින් කොහොමද කස්ටමර්ට අවශ්‍ය ඒ පොඩ්ඩක් ඉවරයි. Right. So there had been a request from our participant that to conduct the program in English and Sinhala both. So I'll be talking in English more so that everyone can understand. I'm apologize for the people who didn't get that. So just to come back to the main point. So there are main. I have identified main 8 channels which the banking subjects have been delivered to the customers. Number 1 is the branch banking, mobile banking, ATM, CDM, phone banking, telebanking, self-service, internet banking, online e-banking, and internet-based banking, contact center, and POS. So I'll be talking about all these factors in individual slides and explain more on how all these areas have really impacted the bank evolution of the banking channels. Going into the next slide. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Right. Our point number 1, the physical distribution channel. So like I mentioned, the branch banking. If you all can remember those days when a branch is open, it was a great news for the public. So especially in if you see the Sri Lankan context, they go advertise on radio, TV, press, and say, okay, there is a new branch opening in this area. So they welcome all the customers in that particular area to come and visit the branch and get to know the manager and so on and so forth. So branch banking still plays a major role in the banking industry. Why does branch become so popular, or rather so significant in the banking industry? Number 1, if you look at the customer behavior, our banking community, they still like the physical appearance, or rather physical engagement with the bank. So they like to walk into a branch and see, okay, what are the how the setup has been done, and they like to touch and feel the cash and get to know people. That's the Sri Lankan culture, and get to and make some friendship with the branch staff and to get to know them. But eventually, when the country's economy is growing, the usage of branch for particular reasons has significantly grew. So people started coming into bank more often. So they want to do transactional banking, they want to apply for loans, or they want to do fixed deposits opening. And with that, the branch banking became a more and more of a congested place for customers to visit. So at certain places, people were unable to find parking, and at some points they were unable to wait in the queue, and by the time the bank is closed at 3, they were unable to come and get their needful done on time. And with that happening, the banking industry, bankers actually thought, how can we mitigate, how can we address to these issues? With that, the branch extensions became a solution. For an example, if you look at some of the major banks in the country, and where they have a main branch in, let's say, Mugegoda, and there is another extension service center somewhat closer to the main branch. So these main, the extension branches, they do only selected services like essential services, cash deposit acceptance, cash withdrawals, and check acceptances, and all these credit facilities, the loan facilities, those are done by the main branch. And branch banking became very popular. Sorry, the branch extensions became very popular with these limited time seekers, where they want to just quickly go and get a withdrawal done or deposit done. So likewise, the physical distribution channel over the last few years became a very popular banking channel in the industry. With that, most of the the larger banks, they wanted to penetrate the market, so they looked at several areas. For instance, let's say northern province or eastern province, they went and opened up a regional office, and for selected main towns or the areas, they opened up a full service branch, and whereas at certain remote locations, they opened these branch extensions. And if you look at Colombo and main cities, and if you go into a supermarket, you can find some banks which are operating inside the supermarket. One which grew at a faster rate for a particular period of time, and then at certain point, it also became a very costly operation. If you look at, I mean, there'll be a lot of people in this forum who are working in the branches, and you all know how costly and time-consuming is to operate a branch. For an example, if you look at utility bill payment, especially during pension year, salary days, there will be a lot of people walking into a branch just to pay a water bill or electricity bill. Whereas there will be some other customers who are into the business side, or who are looking to do a large deposit, they will also have to be in the same queue just to do the financial transaction. And with these queues are happening in the branches, they tried finding solutions like queue management systems, numbering systems, and giving priority counters at selected branches. But all these solutions had only a limited, gave only a limited solution to the main cause of the problem. Therefore, these branch banking and branch extensions are not in a growing stage at the moment, because the country is evolving, the world is evolving. More than that, the customer expectations and the customer behavior is drastically changing. Therefore, the physical distribution channel of a branch or a branch extension is not a growing channel. And because of that, at branch level, so the banks level, they were looking for some alternatives, how we can do these sort of a limited services using other institutions. So let me go into details of that. So the definition of a branch banking is a system of providing banking services through different offices of a bank that act as a head branch. The idea is to expand the bank's business to cater different locations and provide services to all its customers. That's the definition of a branch banking. And like I mentioned earlier, this was a good solution for people who are banking with industry for about 10-15 years ago, but now it has completely changed. But there is another concept which arose few years ago, which is a unit banking. I think this we can see some institutions are still following the unit bank. Unit banking is a banking system which one bank, generally a smaller or independent bank, that renders banking services to its local community. For an example, if you look at Sanasa societies, there also goes as Sanasa Bank. They are only operating within that local community. So they have a customer base for about, let's say, 1,000 or 2,000 people who are in that local area, and they take money from that customers and they lend it to the same communities, and they operate as an independent bank which only serve to a particular purpose. But if you look at the general banking, the main banks, they can't operate like that, because customers are demanding. When they deposit money, they need to have access whenever they want. So creating access in the banking system is very important, especially at this stage. So that's why the digital banking is evolving so fast, and we'll talk about that in our other points to come. Okay. Third-party channels. Third-party channels is an independent business organization or a unit in collaboration with banking institute, which will provide selected or limited banking services at their premises to customers. Can someone tell me an example? What is or description? What is this third-party channels banking meaning? Anyone wants to say a few words about third-party channel banking?
Investment banking.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, investment banks.
Investment bank. Not really, actually. At this context, the investment banking is not a third-party channel. What I wanted to share with you is, okay, let me give you an example.
Lanka Clear?
Sorry?
Lanka Clear Private Limited?
No, Lanka Clear is not a third-party channel. Third-party channel in this context meaning it's not a bank or neither related to bank, but completely different institute or organization which supports banking services to the customers of that bank. Anyone wants to give a try?
Factoring service.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Factoring service.
Not really. Okay, let me explain.
Post machine?
Master Visa,
ATM
bank assurance, SWIFT transfers.
No, they are not third-party channel bankings. What I mean by third-party channel is, now, let's say, okay, I'll give you a classic example. So when I was working for HSBC Bank, we were primarily focusing on the credit card business, whereas we had quite a few customers from Ratnapura district, but we didn't have a single branch in that area. When we looked into their details, how their spend is happening, where are they going to go and spend, and also we received few complaints saying that, okay, they don't have a place to pay their credit card bill. So bank was actually trying to find some solution to address these issues. There was a team who went to Ratnapura area and trying to find a better location for a branch, and looking at the potential of opening up a branch. But HSBC is quite different to other local banks and how they operate. So one thing that the issue was for them to pay the credit card bill. So they signed up an agreement with Singer, whereas customers can walk into a Singer outlet and pay their credit card bill then and there. That's what I mean by the third-party channel banking. similarly, the same experience was launched with some institutions like Keels. Now, Keels do accept deposits, and also they lend money through counters to customers. And Abans is like a same channel partnerships. And similarly, HSBC did another partnership with Postal Department, whereas they can they accept money deposits, but they don't do withdrawals. So these independent business organizations or units, they've got partnered with banking institutes to do this main frame of services to customers, and that was a cost-effective way of managing businesses in a wider environment. Hope everyone got the idea of what the third-party channel banking means. Any questions you all want to ask?
Can you just explain it again?
Right. Third-party channel banking means මම සිංහලෙන් කියන්නද? උදාහරණයක් විදිහට ගත්තොත් ලංකාවේ මොන හරි එක පළාතක තියෙනවා ඒ බැංක් එකට සම්බන්ධ බ්‍රාන්ච් එකක් ඒ පළාතේ නැහැ. එතකොට ඒ ඉන්න කස්ටමර්ස්ලාට අවශ්‍ය මූලික ගනුදෙනු කටයුතු කරගන්න. මම උදාහරණයක් විදිහට HSBC ගත්තේ. එතන රත්නපුර දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ HSBC බ්‍රාන්ච් එකක් නැහැ. එතකොට ඒ කස්ටමර්ස්ලාට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් කාඩ් බිල් එක පේ කරගන්න බැරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තිබ්බා. ඒගොල්ලන් ගොඩක් ඒගොල්ලන් යූසේජ් එක තිබ්බේ කොළඹ සහ ඒ ප්‍රධාන නගරවල නැත්නම් ඕවර්සීස් වල. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ කාඩ් එකට පේ කරන්න තාපහුව ඒගොල්ලන් කොළඹට හරි ආසන්න බ්‍රාන්ච් එකක් තියෙන තැනකට එන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට මේ ඉන්ඩිපෙන්ඩන්ට් පාර්ටිස් නැත්නම් අපි ගත්තොත් සිංගර්, අබාන්ස්, පෝස්ටල් ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් වගේ ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට් එක බැංක් එක පාර්ට්නර්ෂිප් එකකට ඇවිල්ලා මේ පේමන්ට් ඩිපොසිට්ස් නැත්නම් කැෂ් කලෙක්ෂන්ස් එහෙම නැත්නම් කැෂ් විත්ඩ්‍රෝවල්ස් කීල්ස් වගේ ආයතනත් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා මෙන්න මේ සර්විසස් ටික කස්ටමර්ට ඔෆර් කරා. එතකොට එතනදී වෙන්නේ ඒ අදාළ ආයතනය බැංක් එක වෙනුවෙන් ඒ අවශ්‍ය සර්විසස් ඒ කස්ටමර්ට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ප්‍රමිසස් තුලදී ලබා දෙනවා. ඒකට බැංක් එකත් එක්ක ඒගොල්ලන් කතා කරලා ඒ අවශ්‍ය ෆී එක කස්ටමර්ටද නැත්නම් බැංක් එකකින් ඒගොල්ලන් අතර ඒක ෂෙයා කරගෙන මේ කස්ටමර්ට අවශ්‍ය සර්විස් එක ඒගොල්ලන් ලබා දෙනවා. ඒක තමයි අර third party channel එකක් විදිහට මේ distribution channel එකක් විදිහට physical location එකක් එමත් නැත්නම් බැංක් එකක් නොවන වෙන ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට් එකක් පාවිච්චි කරන්න අවස්ථාව ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ගොඩක් බැංකු මම දන්නවා ඒ කියන්නේ NDB ගත්තොත් ඒ වගේ බැංක්ස් මේ වගේ ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට් සෑහෙන්න පාවිච්චි කරනවා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ payment channels වලට.
Like we doing LC.
Exactly, yes. Any other questions in this topic? Right, okay. Let's move into the other. This is another banking channel which is called the agency banking. Agency banking is a type of branchless banking that allows the traditional banks to extend their network of branch and services in a cost-effective manner through the authorized agents. Agency banking is gaining popularity due to the various reasons like product availability, risk management, improvement in financial inclusions, and many more. What does exactly agency banking means? Now, for an example, if you look at Sri Lanka as a country, we are a very small island nation, so we can reach to any part of the country within few hours. But if you look at countries like India, Bangladesh, and Malaysia, they are so big that they can't open up branches in everywhere. So they even in Sri Lanka also certain banks are looking at agency banking because this concept, whereas it's a cost effective and it's a service that can be enabled through a party to the customer base to support all of their transactional basis. But there will be limited services available in this agency concept, but more their day-to-day essentials are covered. This is more of a this is an extended version of an agency banking, third-party channel banking. I know for a fact that one particular bank is really looking into this agency banking concept. I can't reveal the name of the bank. They are trying to work out with an organization which has similar sort of a interest in the industry. So it can be either insurance agent, or it can be another retailer, or it can be a supermarket chain. Anyone who can understand the basics of agency banking and got together with a commercial or a specialized bank, they can provide these services at their locations. For example, if you look at the worldwide, the Walmart is something that they started similar to agency banking. So they have their branches within their supermarket itself, and they do services to customers who are visiting to the supermarkets. And in that way, customers are being served at their conveniences, and also the cost for both parties to run the operation is also very minimal. If you want to ask any questions, you can stop me and ask at any time.
So that mean agency banking mean so that mean a totally separate organization will give some support to the banking sector.
Yes. Now, if you look at the third-party channels, they are providing only limited services like that, cash deposits, acceptances, cash withdrawals, or payment, credit card payments, or things like that. But if you look at agency banking, it's an extended version. So they can do account opening, they can take credit proposals, they can lend money to people, and a completely separate organization can get along with a banking institute and do all these agency banking concepts.
So normally we can't find that such companies in Sri Lanka, no?
Not at the moment, but it is in pipeline with central bank. I know one bank is particularly interested in this field. Unfortunately, I can't reveal the name.
Oh, yeah.
But they are in discussions.
Okay.
So what do you all think about the physical distribution channels and the future of these physical distribution channels in the years to come? Anyone would like to comment on that? Like I said, we need to have more of a interactive session, then only we can get to know more in this subject. And can someone tell me what is going to be the future of branch banking? Anyone working in a branch?
My understanding is going forward, there won't be any requirement for branches, actually physical places. So because the industry is moving towards digital services, and also customers are expecting more convenient digital services. So going forward, the banks won't open new branches, and will go for alternative channels.
Exactly. You are absolutely right, Nilupam, but there won't be new branch opening in the future. But there will be branches who are acting as a sales unit. There won't be more of a service unit. Now, for an example, if somebody wants to apply for a loan, they can actually do it online. But there has to be an office or some sort of a sales unit in that area for a bank to go and do the credit appraisals, go and see what is he doing, and because things are getting decentralized, they need to have some sort of a office with limited number of staff and limited number of services, just to identify the potential in that area, and how the business can be grown, how the community can be developed by giving the banking options to these areas. But all these mega branches or the super branches concept is actually diluting, and people are moving to digital platforms faster than ever. And the COVID was a classic example. And one of the biggest advantage Sri Lanka had during COVID was the banking industry was actually ready to take the hit of COVID, because the technology has been developed, and all these platforms were readily available in the market for people to do transactions. And the people were ready. Actually, the people were not utilizing the facilities that has been already available in the market. But while the COVID lockdowns and all that came in, people were fastly moving to these digital. So I'll share some of the stats during the presentations, how during the last couple of quarters, how the digital transaction has been evolving faster than ever. So any other things that you all want to discuss about the branch banking or the agency concept, the third-party channels? What do you think? How do you think all these third-party channels are becoming? What would be the future of third-party channels?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
This third party channel and agency banking එකේදී අපි bank directly involved වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ. ඒ නිසා customer secrecy ගැන මොනවාරි ගැටලුවක් එන්න පුළුවන්.
Krishna නේද?
Krishna.
ඔව්. Krishna මෙහෙමයි. එතනදී දැන් ඒකේ අපි use කරන third party channel එක නැත්නම් agency bank එකත් එක්ක අපි කරන services අනුව. දැන් උදාහරණයකට ගත්තොත් අපි කීල්ස් වගේ සුපර්මාකට් චේන් එකක් use කරන්න පුළුවන් අපිට credit card payment එකක් accept කරන්න. නැත්නම් cash deposit එකකට. එහෙම නැත්නම් fund transfer එකකට. එහෙම නැත්නම් cash withdrawal එකකට. එතකොට ඒ වගේ තැනකදී customer බැංකුව සහ ඒ කීස් වගේ ආයතනය දෙගොල්ලම එකතු වෙලා ඒ කස්ටමර්ට ඒ පිළිබඳ හොඳ දැනුම් දීමක් කරන්න ඕනේ. මෙන්න මේ වගේ ෆැසිලිටි එකක් අපි කීල්ස් එකත් එක්ක ඔයගලන්ට සපයලා දීලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට අන්නේ ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් එක හරියට පාස් වුණොත් කස්ටමර්ට එයා ඒ සිටුේෂන් එකේදී සහ එයාට ඒ සිටුේෂන් එකේදී හම්බෙන එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් එක. උදාහරණයකට ගත්තොත් අපි කීල්ස් එකේ ගිහිල්ලා කැෂ් ඩිපොසිට් කරලා ඒ කස්ටමර්ට එයාගේ SMS රෙජිස්ට්‍රේෂන් එක තියෙනවා නම් එයාට ඒ වෙලාවෙම ඩිපොසිට් එකත් එක්කම එයාට SMS එකක් අනිත් පැත්තට આવොත් ඔයාගේ account එකට your account has been credited with 10,000 rupees at Keel's outlet, then he built his trust. Then obviously he will continue to use these channels. But අපි කිසිම දන්නේ නැති පාටි එකක් එක්ක ගිහිල්ලා අපි දුමු ඩේලි කලෙක්ෂන් යුනිට් එකකට වගේ යන තැනකදී සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වෙන දැන එක්කෙනා නෙමෙයි වෙන පාටි එකක් ගිහිල්ලා ඒ වගේ ඩේලි කලෙක්ෂන් එකක් පාවිච්චි කරන්න ගියොත් එතනදී පොඩි ඔය කියන ට්‍රස්ට් එක නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් මේ වගේ channels use කරනකොට බැංක් එකක් වශයෙන් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම හිතන්න ඕනේ end to end process එක. එකක් කොහොමද මේ seamless experience එකක් customer ට ලබා දෙන්නේ සහ ඒ experience එක කොච්චරක් දුරට කස්ටමර්ට කියන්නේ ට්‍රස්ට් එකක් නැති විදිහට ලබා දෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක ගැන සෑහෙන්න බැංක් එක පැත්තෙන් හිතන්න ඕන. සහ ඒ අදාළ සම්බන්ධ වෙන ආයතනය. තව ක්ලාසික් එක්සාම්පල් එකක් දුන්නොත් මම කලින් සඳහන් කරපු HSBC එකේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් කාඩ් පේමන්ට්ස් පාවිච්චි කරා පෝස්ටල් ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකත් එක්ක. එතනදී සමහරක් වෙලාවට පොඩි ඩිලේස් තිබිලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට කස්ටමර් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඩියු ඩේට් එකට ගිහිල්ලා ක්‍රෙඩිට් කාඩ් පේමන්ට් එක කරාට ඒක බැංක් එකේ අප්ඩේට් කරනකොට සමහර වෙලාවට දවසක් නැත්නම් දෙකක් පරක් වෙච්ච අවස්ථා තිබිලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ කස්ටමර්ට එයාගේ පාවිච්චි කරපු channel එක පිළිබඳ trust එකක් නැති වෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ channel එකක් පාවිච්චි කරනකොට බැංක් එක උනත් හිතන්න ඕනේ මෙතන මේකේ කොහොම මොනවද දෙන්න පුළුවන් practical issues කොහොමද මේ වගේ issue එකක් ආවොත් how quickly they can respond to it and what are the areas that can tarnish the brand name or the product name of a bank or that institute. So these points needs to be seriously looked at, and also especially the security factor and the AML. These things needs to be seriously looked at when doing third-party channels, and also especially with the agency banking.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So I hope I covered the physical distribution channels part, and just to tell you that these physical channels, the growth rate is very low when it comes to banking industry. And let's move into our next topic, alternative delivery channels. Can someone tell me what is an alternative delivery channel? I know all of you may have heard or experienced this term, but if someone can tell me what is an alternative delivery channel?
Call center.
Without physically, but almost to automated. Most of the transactions are automated with self banking like that.
Yes. The word itself, no, alternative delivery channels. So what are the alternatives, like, or rather other options that we can use to do transactions or get connected with customers, and how best a bank can connect with the customer using other channels? So things like internet banking, cards, wallets, ATMs, CDMs, these are all comes under ADC. Why it is so important? So if you look at today's context, the previous example that I took, a working person who is working from 8:30 to 5, he really doesn't have time to go and do his the basic banking needs, because weekends banks are closed, and from 9 to 3 the bank is open, but he is unable to. But with these alternative channels becoming so popular in the market, customers have access to their funds or their requirements at any time. So one of the major growing or the important factor in the banking industry is how best we can create access to their funds in the bank. The more we invest or more we develop creating access to these areas will have a major impact on the customer's behavior, or rather his being with the bank, building the loyalty with the customer. Let's go into details what alternative delivery channels means. So ADC means that channel which act as intermediaries between bank and customer, leads to expand movement and execution of banking services. These channels may be media, tools, or any application through which customer can perform their banking operations. So like I mentioned, it can be any media or tool or an application. Now, for an example, if you look at things like internet is, I would say internet is the core of the evolution of today's banking industry. Because if if internet is not there, just imagine the entire world will be disconnected. And if you look at if internet is down for at least 1 or 2 hours, the entire world will get like a blackout. So alternative delivery channels in the banking industry is evolving faster than ever. So from bank's point of view, with these old ADC channels, will help bank to reach wider range of customers across the country. If I take an example now, the same example, HSBC. HSBC is primarily focused in Western Province and main cities in the country. But with these ADC channels, they can go into the entire country. So people who are customers who are in Anuradhapura or Patiklo or Mathara, they can open up an account using these channels and get connected with the bank. So digital banking and electronic banking are the most performing areas of the ADC channel. And one of the major point in ADC is that the low cost operation in this area. Just imagine opening up a branch versus opening up a ADC channel in particular area. Cost will be considerably low when it comes to ADC channel, and most of the banks are now moving into these ADC channels, especially to widen their reach and also to capture the unbanked segments. And we'll be talking about how what are the channels that are being used, and in today's context, how these banking institutions are using technology to reach to customers. Previously, all banks deliver their financial services through branch only. Looking to traditional banking method, the need of ADC in banking sector emerged. This includes the ways of serving customers. And the main alternative generally in the ADC includes internet banking, ATM card, debit, credit, and mobile banking, UPI, and e-words. The main benefit of this alternative digital channel is they reduce operating costs of the bank, improve clients' convenience, exploring new market segments, and reach client and geographic previously unserved. I'm not going to read all these sentences, but let's go into details of each ADC, the main ADC channels. Internet banking. Like I mentioned earlier, internet banking is the start of this new era. Whereas those days, if you want to just if you want to just check your account balance, you had to walk into a branch or you had to call a contact center. But there is a verification process. There is all that happening. But with internet banking coming into play, the entire game was changed. How customer can be served with just a click away. So in simple way, the internet banking is nothing but the use of banking facility on your computer or mobile with help of internet. It's considered as a modern form of banking. Internet banking is a complete online banking system itself and facilitates you to do all banking operations setting at your home. It also helps you to transfer funds and make bill payments from anywhere at home. There are two aspects of internet banking. One is personal internet banking, and other one is corporate or rather business internet banking. Personal internet banking, I think most of you are using it now, so I am not going to. If anyone wants more details about how internet banking works and what are the features, we will go in. But I will just touch and explain what are the key features of personal internet banking and corporate. Just imagine yourself as not as a banker but a customer. You are in some sort of an emergency situation, and you just want to do some fund transfer to a friend or a family in your family. Just imagine if you didn't have the facility of internet banking. Forget about other channels. Just imagine if you didn't have the facility of internet banking. How would you do that? How would you address the situation? Just think in yourself. What would be the alternatives? How would you act to this situation? Similarly, there had been so many cases like this in the past, whereas customers were unable to access to their funds, especially at emergency situations, and how they can be served to their purposes at the time of they need it. And because of that, the organizations which are providing internet, the banks were looking out to see how they can give a solutions to customer using different modes. So that's how the internet banking platform was launched in '99 in Sri Lanka. So this was actually done mainly done with the help of Lanka here, where they took the initiative of introducing this facility in Sri Lanka. So with the launch of that, it became one of the most popular tool in the country by the not by everyone, but people who are looking for conveniences, time seekers, and looking for additional value in their banking business. How they can utilize these facilities at their convenience. And with that, the corporate and business internet banking, whereas large institutions, if you look at companies which has over 1,000 staff members who are doing regular transactions, they if they want to do a payment, they'll have to write a check and take it to a accountant and to another senior person to sign. But these were really costly, and also it was more time consuming for these institutions to do transaction. Therefore, they were looking for alternatives. And with that, this personal business internet banking platforms developed by the organizations, and where they can do bulk transfers, bulk payments, bulk salary payments, and they can pay utility bills. So the telcos and utility companies, they've connected with the banking industry to get the money transfer. So all these aspects clearly helped in the industry to grow. For an example, if you all know can someone tell me what is the cost of money printing in Sri Lanka? I'll tell you a classic example to that. Can anyone tell me what is the cost of cash usage, cash printing in Sri Lanka? Okay, it's about 3% of our GDP. Just imagine 3% of our GDP is spent on cash printing in Sri Lanka, whereas all these people on the roads are struggling just to get a 6% of GDP to spend on the education, or 6% on the healthcare. But whereas we are just wasting 3% of our GDP on cash printing. If we can reduce 1% of that, cash printing cost, how much money would be saved in the country, which we can actually put it into the development of the education sector or the healthcare sector, or any infrastructure development. Using these facilities, the ADC facilities can actually help the country to do that. And it's not only that, but whereas you save a lot of time, a lot of money from going to places just to transfer money. And with these technologies that are being introduced, you can actually gain a lot of advantages by simply moving into the ADC channels. I just took some statistic from the payments bulletin, which was released in Q1 2021. As you all can see, how much it has evolved from last year to this year. In December 2020, you can see 57 billion, 57.8 billion rupees have transferred using internet payment systems, and the percentage is 82% from Q1 to Q2, Q1 2020 to 2021. That means people are actually moving into these conveniences mode, whereas it's once we give the solution to the customer and how best it can be served to their purposes, they will definitely move into. So what are the areas that we need to improve when giving these facilities to customers? Can someone tell me? I hope everyone is not sleeping, or rather the session is boring for you all.
Yeah, we can give them the facility, the digital access for fund transfers, and kind of that mobile
Right.
reloads, channeling, e-channeling kind of things.
Right. Yes. I just listed down few things. What are the uses of internet banking? Reduce frequent visits to the branches, fund transfer options, and online account opening, utility bill payments, new checkbook request, easy to monitor transaction in accounts, especially for a business person. If he's doing so much of transaction using the bank accounts, they might forget, okay, what was the transaction that I did a couple of days ago, couple of weeks ago. With these facilities are being given to the customer, they can actually trace down or track how they have utilized their funds in effective manner. And also with the world being connected to each and everyone, the transactional banking, the payment industry is evolving so much, so and so forth. So doing online purchases, or making a payment to another country, or TT or a DD transfer, these facilities can be used to do all these transactions. And the point number 2 is mobile banking. Mobile banking is the most popular method of banking which assists you to initiate the banking operations on your mobile phone. All banks are providing their mobile banking applications to their customers. You can use mobile banking for instant fund transfers, payment of bills. This is just a description of what mobile banking is about. But if you see, everyone has a handphone in their mobile phone in their hand, and you can do at least 99% of your banking activities using your mobile. And that's today's world, today's new way of banking. If you look at our youth, the generations to come, they will never ever walk into a branch unless if it's like a really, really necessary thing. But they will do bank. They will not use cash as their mode of transactions, but they will use banking terms, banking facilities using their mobile or the laptops or the tablets. How would they do that? They will. We as bankers, we have to be ready to cater to that market segments, and especially if you look at the last 1.5 to 2 years in the country, how mobile banking has evolved from very minimum use case to a highly used facility in the country. It's really amazing because most of the banks in the country were ready with mobile banking apps, whereas in a situation like COVID lockdowns and people were unable to move around within the country, and there was a scarcity of using cash, but the essentials needed to be done. They wanted to purchase their daily essentials. They wanted to some people wanted to do fund transfers. So Sri Lanka was actually ready to take the challenge of this COVID pandemic. So thereby, it became so popular in the country. And if you look at these charts, most of the mobile apps were used to pay utility bills. Why? If you look at it now, just imagine you are going into a see the electricity board counter or to a branch just to pay your electricity bill. You'll have to wait in the queue. You might have to find parking. You will have to go through the security or the COVID protocols in this context. Whereas if you can use your mobile phone and in just 3 seconds it will go, the payment will be done. It will be updated in your system. And this statistic shows how from usage in Q1 to 2020 to 2021, how the usage has been evolved. So utility payment plays a major role, but whereas money transfers, institutional payments, and fund transfers, those are actually heavily used in the mobile app. If you all have any questions, just ask because there's no such theory in this module to talk about. It's more of discussions, knowledge sharing that we have to do. Anything that you all want to know about mobile banking?
So now the mobile banking, now people having the internet banking, that means normally that internet banking can through the mobile phones, no? So that now mobile banking is outdated, no? Is it?
Mobile banking is Trishan, right?
Yeah. Julie.
Trishan, mobile banking is more of app-based. So internet banking is where you use the internet or rather web portal to log into your bank's provider and get your facilities. But mobile banking is more of whereas mobile apps. Now most of the banks have their mobile banking app. With that, they can access to their funds, and they can do all these fund requests to checkbook requests to all that.
That same thing in internet banking, no? Similar.
More or less the same thing. But internet is more mobile banking is more versatile. It's more mobile. In terms of services, it's more of the same thing, but mobility wise, it's mobile banking is more mobile. Because it's purely built on the UI UX basis. You all must be using a lot of apps, and these apps are done by the expertise in the technology industry, where they will go through some scenarios how to do the user interface part and the user experience part. But in internet banking or rather online banking, you are unable to do it. So you are basically using a computer or a laptop to access your money. But with mobile banking, you can place the icons wherever you want it and how how the journeys can be defined, and it's once you the security wise is also it's more secure than internet banking. That's why it's gaining more popularity than the internet banking. Let's move into the point number 3, the UPI, Unified Payment Interface. UPI is a digital platform and allows you to instant transfers from one account to the other account via mobile. So the facilities, things like, I'll be talking more of these in the slides to come, so I will not explain it here further. The slip theft and just pay are the technologies that has been built by the Lanka Clear to facilitate these UPI interfaces. Just to give an example now, EasyCash. EasyCash is a UPI where they connected to banking institutions using these facilities, and they facilitate fund transfers using mobile apps. These are the technologies that are being introduced that are in place at the moment, and which are getting evolved in the country for customers to perform their transactions. And e-wallet. Another classic example is Mcash and EasyCash, whereas they, if you look at Dialog and Mobitel, they are primarily telco providers, but they have collaborated with other utility companies, insurance agents, and hospitals, the e-channeling part, or with industries that you can name in schools, many industries where they create services for customers and giving them the opportunity to do their day-to-day transactions using these e-wallets. And if I may explain, in today's age of smartphone, young generation is preferring e-wallets instead of ATM and debit cards, because the generations that we are seeing at the moment, they don't carry cash. They are primarily born with the mobile, and they are living with the mobile, and probably it has become a part of their body. They will not step out of the home or wherever unless they have their mobile in hand. So every time, if we are developing something, we have to always think of who is our customer going to be in the next few years to come. But if we develop a technology which is outdated or which is catering to the customers who have been with the bank for a few years, yes, we have to look at them as well. But if we are developing technologies or the services, we have to look at the future. We need to have a sense of what's coming into the market, because unless we have an idea of what is going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, we will customers will move away, and they will find alternatives. That's what happened in the industry now. If you look at social media, Facebook is evolving every day, and they are now trying to tap into the payment industry. Apple is already with Apple Pay. Google has already in the market, and other players like the recent development which I got to know is the Disneyland. They are primarily into the entertainment area now, but now they have venture into the payment industry, whereas they will more act like part of act like a Visa. And we don't know where the next revolution is going to come on, but we as bankers, we need to be ready with what's going to happen in the next few years. It won't be another 10 years. It will come within the next 2 to 3 years. So we have to have an understanding, or we have to carefully study and monitor how the trends are going to be. Sometimes we may the requirement will be already in the market, but sometimes it can arise in one night, or we may have to create some new opportunities in the market so that people can adapt into that technology or the facility. So that's how these e-wallets and we'll be talking about more of the payment apps have actually happened in them. So we don't know where the next opportunity is coming. Our competitor will not be this other bank. It can be a completely different organization which doesn't have any relevance to the banking industry. So these type of challenges we may see in the future, and we have to have a mechanism how we can play safe along with these new developments. So the future is going to be actually not individualistic or playing in the same way. It will be more of collaborations. That's why organizations like Dialogue, Mobitel, they are moving into different segments in the market. Another classic example is Singer. Singer has launched their credit card simply because they were giving installment basis payments to customers who are buying things from Singer. But they saw there is an opportunity. If they launch a credit card, they can earn more money using this using the same technique. So they partnered up with another bank. So they are issuing a white label product to their customers. They are taking the credit risk, whereas they earn more money simply buying the same transaction with different ways of earning another income. So that's why this the industry is so evolving, and we don't know where the next opportunity is going to come. And the next point is the ATM debit
Excuse
card.
me, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. The QR payments, is it QR payments also part of that e-wallet?
QR, it's part of a e-wallet, but e-wallet concept is different. E-wallet means where the certain organization who's providing e-wallet facility, they get money stored in their e-wallet, and the customer can use it on any purposes. Like they can either do it as a fund transfer, or if they have enabled QR based payments, they can do it as a QR transactions, or they can use other methods of payments to use. But e-wallet is QR is a part of e-wallet.
So that means normally if we somebody wants to need it in a e-wallet, so that means he wants to like a credit facility. He want to purchase a credit facility from bank side or something like that.
No, it's not a credit facility. It's not a credit facility. So you need to transfer funds from another bank account, or you have to deposit into the e-wallet, but you can keep that money in your e-wallet and use it out wherever you want. Is that clear?
Yeah, clear.
Right. Now, if you look at the Easy Cash, for an example, they don't give any credit facilities. Like, it's not a credit card or a loan that they'll, but you can pull money from another bank account stored in your e-wallet, and you can use it at their partner merchants, or pay their utility bills for things like that. From that organization point of view, how would they do this is because when they collect money from using these tools, they will actually earn an income using the interest, because anyway the money is held in a bank account. Is that clear, Shishan?
Yeah, clear.
Right. Okay. So let's move into the other ATM, debit card, and credit card. So I think you all had a session on cards previously, so I'm not gonna talk much about the cards here, but this is the most commonly and the most used tool in the country. Now, if you just think about yourself, how many of you have been to a just imagine you are not working in a bank. What would be the first preference if you want to withdraw cash or use your money in a place that you want to buy something? It will be your card. That's the key. I would in the banking terms, if we say the key to your bank is your card, but it is changing in the new context. But at the moment, card plays a major role in your banking business, because it facilitates two of your main requirements. One is to withdraw cash, and other one is to pay for your goods. So why somebody wants to withdraw cash? Just imagine somebody getting a salary on 25th, and he goes into a branch and withdraws money, and he goes to a supermarket or a shop or a grocery store, buy things. He can do the same thing using the cards. So I'm not going to talk much about, because you have much more understanding how these cards and all. If you want any insights or anything that in this subject, I can explain more. But this is the commonly used tool in the world at the moment for transactional banking. It's called plastic money, or rather virtual money, because you will not feel or you will not touch money, but you know you have cash in your hand. You know it's very mobile. It's 24/7 accessible. You can walk into any ATM around the country or overseas. You can withdraw money, or you can walk into any supermarket or a grocery store and pay for what you buy. And because of mainly for the convenience and the security factor, this mode of transaction, this channel became so popular within a short period of time. Benefits of using cards. I'm not going to talk much about this topic here, because it's so just I'll quickly rush through it. It helps you planning and budgeting. So these payments you are done in using cards, it gets cleared immediately. So you know, okay, how much money you have spent and exact amount that you can spend, and it's more secure. And most of the banks, they give rewards on transactions. And if you are using any debit cards or store valued cards, you don't have to pay any interest. You are paying exact amount. Just imagine you walk into an ATM and withdraw cash about 5,000, but you walk into a supermarket, you buy only for 3,500 worth of goods, and you have to keep that in the balance in your pocket. But if you keep that balance money in your bank account, you will earn interest. And it may be a small amount, but by keeping it in your pocket, you will not earn anything. So that's what all the most of the people who are very sensitive about the rupees and cents, they utilize cards. And card industry is one of the greatest convenience which has been introduced to the world in the recent years. And ATM, CDM. Can someone tell me what is a CRM?
Cash recycling machine.
Yes. Why CRM is good compared to other machines?
No need to involve many. That means EDM machine, we need to take the money and we need to do a balancing part again. So CRM in automatically done everything.
Right. That's one reason. if you look at ATM or a CDM, there's from bank's point of view, there's a reconciliation process, and there's physical, much more physical engagement than CRM. But the one other factor is using the CRM is because, like I mentioned earlier, Sri Lanka is one of the one country which mostly rely on physical cash, and we, like I mentioned, we spend 3% of our GDP on cash printing. But if we use CRMs, it's the same machine that can either accept deposits or withdraw. So just imagine, by doing something little, we can help the country to reduce the usage of cash. And if you use either only CDM or ATM, we have to go and collect money that are deposited in the CDM and put it into the ATM. But whereas CRM can do the same with minimum usage of cash, physical cash. So the government in, or rather other countries, also encouraging CRMs to use more and more, because simply the fact that if we can reduce the print of cash in a country, it can have a larger impact on the national economy. So ATMs were introduced to Sri Lanka in 1986, and from that time onwards, it was more of withdrawing cash. But now it has evolved from utility bill payments and service vendors like checkbook requests, fund transfers, and so on and so forth. And the other hidden factor that ATM machines can do is using the CRM tools. You might have experienced certain things that when is your birthday, when you go to an ATM, it might pop up a message saying happy birthday. Or banks can actually utilize it in such a way, because most people do interactions with ATMs today. So if you can see in these two graphs how the transactions have evolved or significantly grow in the last couple of quarters, banks can utilize these units to do CRM. So if somebody is heavily using ATMs, they can pop up a message and say, hey, don't use ATMs, so use your cards at merchant locations to do post transactions. And someone who has a fixed deposit in the bank can actually extract those details, and whenever he's using the ATM, they can pop up a message saying, okay, there is a low cost loan for you, which is applicable for you, would you like to take it? Then yes or no. If we say yes, then the message goes to the sales or the business division. They can contact the customer and proceed with the loan. And these kind of tools can be, these low-cost tools can be utilized by the business departments or the marketing team to get the full advantage of marketing, or rather CRM, by initializing low-cost methods. Thereby, banks are gaining more and more profits with use of machines. And as you can see in these charts, how cash withdrawals have happened using ATMs and debit cards. We as bankers, I think we should, while we are encouraging people to use these machines, also similarly we have to educate them on how best we can use these channels. If a person is withdrawing money just to go and do shoppings, we should encourage that customers to use it at use the card at merchant levels. Thereby, bank will also get benefit. Merchant will also get the benefit. Eventually, customer will also get the benefit.
Any questions?
let's move into the POS. This is something, if you look at it from a alternative delivery channels point of view, this is not something that is directly related to ADC, but it has an indirect connection. Plus, it is something that that can generate revenue for the bank and in a different manner. Now, POS post terminals were launched in Sri Lanka in 1994, and currently there is about close to 100,000 post terminals in the country. There are about close to 11 institutions that are being that are introducing these post terminals to the country. How does it connect to the ADC? Just imagine a bank who are giving these terminals to merchants, and they have about 1,000 terminals deployed in the market. And the same bank customer goes and do a transaction at a merchant level using the same card and the same terminal. By simply doing that transaction, bank earns extra interchange income through this facility. So how does it happen is Visa pays, let's say if it's a Visa card, Visa pays an interchange income to the issuer and the acquirer. If the issuer and the acquirer is the same bank, so both income comes to the bank. That's why all these the banks are major banks are significantly promoting their post terminals and the transactional banking at merchant level, where they can earn hidden incomes using these terminals. And why I say it's a ADC channel, because when we promote post transactions at merchant level to our customers, it's a convenience for the customer. He doesn't have to walk into ATM, withdraw money, and go and spend it at the merchant level. But he can do the same at the merchant level. And by doing that, all parties involved will get the benefits, especially customer and the bank. And eventually it will help the country to grow with reducing cash transactions and doing more of banking transaction. And the other thing is when you do a such transaction, the money will come to the bank account on the next day. And thereby bank can eventually grow their bank balance by simply not letting the money go out of the bank, but keeping it in the same circle, but facilitating the transactions to the customer.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, that post transaction is more benefited to the customers, but I have seen some incidents that when I mean that let's say some of the merchants, they are charging the 3%. Yeah.
Yeah. Technically, a merchant is not allowed to do that, charge that 3% from the customer. It is illegal. But what happens is now, for an example, if you walk into a hardware store or a general store, this 3% is a cost for them. So they simply pass that to the customer, because sometimes their margin can be 1% or 2% or even less than 5%. So they can't take that hit of the 3% transaction. Ideally, they can't charge, but certain merchants do that simply because of their margins are being low. If you report to central bank or any other place, their terminals can be it can be terminated. The facility can be terminated.
Yeah, it is not benefit for the customer from the customer point of view, right, Mister?
From customer point of view, yes, you are absolutely correct.
Is it illegal?
It is illegal.
My goodness. Okay. Thank
when
you.
they sign up for the facility, it's clearly mentioned in the documents that the cost of the transaction cannot be passed to the customer. but eventually it's happening. It's happening at I won't say all merchants, but it's happening.
Yeah, some of merchants they are charged, but when I question for them, they said that bank has charged them, and that's what they are charged. I don't know.
No, they actually interpret it in a different in a wrong manner. So the banks, once you deploy a machine, there is a cost of a transaction. So the
And their bank has given a benchmark to them, right?
yes.
So, okay, fine. I clear.
So in my knowledge, normally we charge from our customers. That means if I give a POS machine to the customer, so normally 3.5% we need to charge from them. No?
Yes.
So out of the 3.5, normally we need to pay 2.5 for the Visa. Am I correct?
It's not the 2.5. It differs from the card type to type. In general terms, it's 1.6 is the cost of the transactions to the bank. So that is being shared among the issuer, acquirer, and the Visa.
Yeah. So that means now if we charge from a customer, that means definitely the customer, they will try to charge from their customers. No?
Yes.
That's why I think it's happened that 3%. So I think in our view, normally we can ask from the customer if if somebody using that credit card, they can do more transactions. That means they have a benefit from that credit card. No? That's why they have a chance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can't ask them to don't take 3% from customer. No?
Certain merchants you use these facilities in such way because if they know 3% maybe their interchange cost, it can be either 2% or 2.5%, but in general in the market it has become like 3% is the bank charge, and they do charge it from customers, whereas it is illegal to do, and customer can actually refuse to pay that, but it won't happen in that way. What they say is bank එකෙන් 3% ගේනවා එහෙනම් ගිහලා මේ cash වලින් ගෙනල්ලා දෙන්න කියලා. Cash වලින් pay කරන්න.
Yeah, most of some that people of the customers, they are telling to their customers, so normally they are try to give some discount, but if you try to pay through that card, we can't give that discount like that. They not given the discount, so that's why normally they are using that method because of that they know they can't charge from the customer.
Very true, you are very true. But if you see now Sri Lanka has about close to 100,000 post terminals deployed in the country, and where these large ticket value transactions are happening mostly in the food and grocery, like supermarket industry, and in time to come these things will change, and there's another point that I want to discuss in the next slides to come, how we can mitigate this transactional cost, because paying from a merchant point of view, paying a 3% to the bank is, for certain merchants, it's a costly business, because some businesses, they have very minimum margins, but the ticket values are such high. For example, the jewelry stores or the mobile electronic shops, their transaction value is high, but the margins are very low. And if they are to pay 3% to the bank to facilitate the transactions, they are losing money. But we as bankers, if we can find some solutions to minimize this transaction cost, then it will have a major impact on the economy, rather to the customer or to the merchant. That's why the QR transactions are getting so much more popular, because it's low cost transactions. So I'll touch on that in few slides to come. if you do a QR transaction, the cost it's within the network. So, and if you see Visa and Master, they do facilitate these transactions to countries like us, but we they are actually taking money from the country itself by simply providing the transaction facility. But countries like China, countries like Russia, they have developed their own network, whereas the same services are being given to the customer, but the money is actually circulated within the country itself. So they can give low cost transactions to the customers and the merchant. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Another interesting topic is the contact center, or rather call center banking, or we call it as phone banking. Now, if you see, phone banking is not in the picture, or rather it's actually going away from now. Those days, when I joined the HSBC as to handle the alternative channels, my first task was to promote the phone banking. So how it works is, when a customer calls to the hotline number, it has a process of if you want to do a balance inquiry, press number 1, and if you want to do. But nowadays, the technologies, since other mode of technologies are significantly grown, the using of phone banking, we don't see any growth in that area because it's sort of time consuming. The engagement is quite complex, and sometimes you have to listen to the entire call recording to identify, okay, what exactly area that you want to do. With those complexities, the phone banking method is not very popular among the customers. But if you see contact center, like the call center banking, how do you also see? Is it a service center or a business unit?
Service center.
It is used to be a service center, but now it's moving towards more of a business unit. You know why I say that? If you look at a contact center, they have 2 units within that. One is called inbound and the other one is outbound. What does outbound, inbound, obviously, it is to service customers, but what is outbound does? Outbound call center is basically primarily focusing on sales and identifying key potential customers, and probably they might be looking at certain databases and do cross-sellings. I'll give you a classic example of what is being used at HSBC. I talk a lot about HSBC because I was there for a long time and I have quite a good experience with that bank. They had a credit card base, but there was a significant number of customers who have not utilized their credit card credit balances for some reasons. It may be not for their requirement, but they didn't have a chance of using, or they didn't want to use it. So bank actually identified this segment, whereas they had over 75% of their credit balance that are not being utilized. So they immediately found another solution, or rather another proposition, because this facility is already granted. They gave options to customer from that unutilized balance. They can take it as an instant loan and pay it in installment. So they don't need to do any credit checks or any credit verification, because that money has already been allocated to that customer. So outbound call center utilize this opportunity, and they call customers, "Sir, you have a X amount of unutilized money in your credit card, and from that you can take X amount of money as a instant loan, which can be transferred to your account next day, and you can pay it in installments with a minimum service fee of 2%, 3%, and maximum I would remember it went up to about 6 or 8%. People took that opportunity, and it was a low interest loan, and if they don't pay it in if they don't pay it in on time, they'll be charged normal interest rate. But people who use that facility in a correct manner, they also had the opportunity of getting some money, as well as bank also utilize that opportunity. That's why I say contact center is not a service unit itself. It's more of both. It's a one side you can serve customers' purposes, as well as it can serve as a business unit. And as you can see in the charts, during the last few quarters, the mobile, the contact center business unit has performed well. And you can use these facilities to get some fund transfers where they are where you are unable to walk into a branch, or sometimes there can be situations you can access your phone but there is no internet. So in such cases, you can call contact centers and get these facilities arranged. So things like that can help customers to build their businesses or other. So any questions? So before me move into the next, shall we quickly finish this off, or shall we take a break and move into the next topic?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So why bank cannot give a what you call free of charge in order to increase the post machine transaction?
You are saying why banks cannot give it at zero cost?
Yeah.
Because there is a few parties involved: issuer, acquirer, and the service provider. For example, if it's a Visa card, and these parties need to get some income, issuer and the acquirer. So that's why it's the merchant commission is being charged. But if we develop something like a network within our country, or within our let's say if we build something within our bank itself, then yes, we should be able to do it at free of charge.
Yeah, let's say, sir, that you said that initially I told you that I know that bank has given the benchmark to the post machine merchant. So why we can't categorize the industry, and why we can't give a separate benchmark to them? Let's say hardware person, we can give a low cost benchmark.
It is actually happening, Prabhat. For example, there are few categories identified as this, like one is a hotel segment, the other one is tourism, healthcare. Likewise, they have identified different categories. For some merchants where they have quite a good margins, they can go up to about 3%, 5%. But certain industries like grocery stores, convenience stores, now certain places they operate it at low cost. Some merchants goes at 1%, 1.2%. I've seen some merchants going at 1% also.
Depend on their portfolio, no, sir.
Sorry?
So no, depend on their portfolios. If they're having a good portfolio, so we can give a low.
Now, for example, if it's like Keels or Cargills, they will never do a transaction with a bank at a cost of 3%. So they will always negotiate with the service provider and say, okay, I will give you this much of business for a month, what would be the best rate that you can offer. So once you do that, the bank can actually earn income from a different manner. So once their account is being settled on the next day, a huge amount of money will come into the bank account, whereby bank can earn a different interest income from that money.
Another question, sir. So I have seen that the e-wallet and the internet banking, people are using to gambling to do the gambling. I mean that I have seen some. So that is not give a good sign of to promote this.
It is always there is some loose points or the weak points in all these technologies that are being developed. Why I say is because these are all case studies, and we are looking at certain issue or a case study to build some technologies for the customers. But whereas certain people use it in a illegal manner or a different manner just to find some loopholes in the businesses. Now, there are several cases in the country itself and in the worldwide also,
In the
where
worldwide,
businesses are being used for illegal activities. That's why in our next session, next week, it is very important for us to look at the AML and legal frame of these activities. So, but the good, the best part of this is where these transactions can be traced.
yes.
With that traceability, we will be able to find the exact person who has done the transaction and where it has gone and how it has happened, from where he has done the transaction. So that's the best part of the technology being introduced to the market. If it's like a cash transaction,
Yeah,
we,
but yes, but we when we identified that those transactions that incident was happened, no. So when it come to the recovery of money, it will be it give us a hardships.
true. There can be incidents like that, but just imagine if we can now it's an electronic transfer. We identify now classic example that I want to share with you is with the country's current situation, we found that some customers are using their cards in overseas because they are unable to do fund transfers from the country to another country. So they use their cards in other countries and withdraw money in their currencies. So since we have technologies put in place and risk management tools, we can identify these transactions as and when it happens. And we can take measurements to either immediately block the card or block the app that is being used. And like you said, the recovering of money will have a hassle, but we'll be able to find the person, and also we can set up limits. If it's like a unauthorized or a suspicious transaction, we can always set up mid transaction levels. We can block their transaction mode of transactions. So there's always 1 or 2% such cases, and we have to find solutions for that also.
Yeah, great, Mr. Jay. There's a pros and cons there. Yeah, you're right. So why we cannot? I mean that when it comes to the that I'm not clear about this area. So is bank allowed to do the gambling? I mean that by using their credit facilities. I mean that credit card or debit card is a legal transaction. That the person, he or she, can use their card to the gambling.
It is not illegal, but banks are not ethically promoting that area because if you look at let's say if it's like a legal entity which are performed to do gambling activities. For example, casino. We can't stop a customer going and paying, buying coins or doing transaction at the casino. But as bankers, we can't publicly promote such activities. But if it's like a unauthorized or suspicious institution that are being doing online gambling, then of course, yes, we can go into the database and block their merchant ID and do such cases.
The Sri Lankan government has identified there such merchants?
Yes, yes. There had been certain incidences where we have identified some suspicious activities in within the country, outside the country, and once we get to know, we take actions to immediately either block it or to take certain measurements to stop such transaction happening in the future.
Okay, thank you. I'm clear.
Right. Okay. Now, any other questions before we break? Right. Okay. Let's take a break at the. Let's take about 15 minutes break, and now it's 3:40, and we'll meet up at 4 o'clock. Discuss our next point. What are the technologies that are introduced in the country, and how what are the new players, how these transactional banking and ADC channels are being utilized in the country. See you all at 4.
Okay.
Just to recap what we discussed, so we discussed how what are the distribution channels that are being used in the banking industry, physical channels as well as the alternative channels. Physical channels like branch banking, third-party channels, agency banking, extension services, and ADC channels like internet banking, mobile banking, cards, POS terminals, ATM machines. So how each of these components have significantly contributed to the development of the banking industry, and whereas what are the shortcomings, how the technologies have developed from start of the age as to today's, what we see in today, what we experience. One thing I actually couldn't talk about is the SMS banking, which is not mentioned in the presentation. But if you can, if you see, one of the major utilized factor in the banking industry is the SMS. We call it SMS banking, or we call it SMS alerts, SMS notifications. But the technology of this SMS, short messages services, which is, I would say, a foundation to the technologies that are used in the ADC. For example, if you use mobile banking or internet banking, SMS alerts, the transaction notifications, transactions PIN, those are being transmitted through using these SMS features. Why? It is the most, at this moment, it is the most commonly used secured platform for customers to do their transactions. Just imagine if this facility is not enabled with your transaction platform, there is a risk of other people, unauthorized personnel doing transactions. In order to avoid such instances or to give maximum security to the customer, these SMS alerts are being utilized by the bank and the tech companies to provide extra additional security to the customer. So just keep in mind that now, since you all are working in the banking industry, it's not just a number that are being used in the banking industry, but it is a very vital tool, a very important element of of the technology that are being used in the banking industry. So in my current bank that I'm working, so we heavily promote our SMS usage to our customers, because that is the starting point of getting our customers to do digital transactions, or get them onto the digital platform. So just keep in mind that whenever if you're like interacting with customers, or you're onboarding customers, getting this mobile number looked into the system is very important. Also, another factor that I wanted to mention, we are in the age of validating. I can remember someone asked about security. So the security features that are being used in industry is now moving more towards the biometrics. It can be your face recognition, it can be your thumbprint, or even it can be your chip based technologies that are being tested in other countries, whereas at certain technology organizations they are developing chip based technologies to do perform these transactions. So all these security features are currently being tested in the market, and some are actually being launched at the moment. So these facilities will enable customers to get more and more engaged with the bank, because if you look at the industries evolving at a rapid pace, so we as bankers, we need to be ready with how best we can support our customers to facilitate their day-to-day transactions. So let's move on to our next session. So in this next session, we are going to discuss about what are the technologies that are being, this one. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Prabhat. Okay. So since we spoke about all the technologies that are being used, so it is very important also to understand that how these technologies have been built, and what are the existing tools, rather technologies that are facilitated all these front-end customers. So whenever there is some new implementation, there's always a front-end and a back-end. So what we spoke about earlier is the front-end, what customers see, the user interface and the user experiences, UI, UX part. But similarly, there is a major component which is happening in the back-end. So probably there's some anyone from IT departments or the digital banking units would have more understanding in this subject, whereas this is a part and parcel of the digital game. So we can't create a system, but we can't create a system which is not user friendly, or we can't have a idea that cannot be developed by our own IT team. Or these two has to go along with each other. So, but certain instances, it doesn't have to be our own team. So we can get technologies from other tech companies or telco companies. For an example, SMS. Banks cannot develop SMS gateways. So it's always the telco companies which has the facilities. So these telco companies and banks, they get together and they provide these API solutions for banks to make transactions or banking facilities for customers to make it easy. Likewise, there are few technology developments which have been introduced by the Lanka Clear. So Lanka Clear is part of central bank. It's a subsidiary of central bank, and I would say they are one of the pioneers in the country to build the technologies and the facilities this transaction banking for all the banks in the country to evolve from where they were a few years ago and up to today. So they took the initiative of launching internet banking, and they took the initiative of the clearing system, and that's how the name of Lanka Clear has actually came into the play. And now they have introduced technologies like SAFE, Just Pay, peer-to-peer transfers. So I'll talk about few of these technologies in the next slides to come. Sri Lanka Interbank Payment System, SLIP. I know most of you have heard the term of slips, and probably you may have used it by now. And one of the major development of Lanka Clear was the introduction of the slip system, which is how it works is this system, the banks which are involved in this system can do transactions within banks, from A bank to B bank within the same day. So there are cut-off times. There is a system that you can log in and do, add details, and transactions are happening at certain cut-off times. So thereby, just imagine if a bank to just imagine one person going from withdrawing money from bank account and going into another bank to deposit money. Likewise, just imagine banks to do the same thing. The industry won't survive. So the technologies has to be built to support all these transaction facilities. So SLIP system provide facilities for settlements on T+0 basis on each business day for payment instructions submitted before the cutoff time specified by the respective financial institution. So there is clear guidelines given by Lanka Clear for banks to work on. So once banks adhere to these guidelines, the transactions are happening within a few seconds, and it facilitates so much of customer needs, bank needs, and thereby saving a lot of money, time, everything to the industry. And low value transactions like customer funding, standing orders, and these are some of the customer conveniences that has been introduced through the SLIPS facility. And there's a maximum limit of 5 million per transactions, but these limits have been changed recently. So currently there are 45 participants in the SLIP systems, IBSL, and almost every bank and the financial institution in the country is part of the SLIP system. And one of the major use case of SLIPs is to can anyone tell me what is the most use case for SLIP system?
Salary payment.
Exactly, yes. So in our next slide, I'll show you the 64% of the total transactions are for salary payments, and customer fund transfers about 30%, and standing instructions at about 5%. Likewise, the salary payments plays a major role in the SLIPS industry. Why? Simply because of the convenience. Now, if a large organization who has about 500, 600 or more than 1,000 employees, they just have to share a file with the bank, and bank will immediately arrange the facility, and within few hours the salaries are being credited to each of the staff members' account. And if this facility isn't there, just imagine the time consuming and Now, I have seen certain organizations still at today, especially in the state sector, they are going into they primarily inform the bank in advance that they are coming to do a large deposit withdrawal, and they want it in change, like 1,000 rupees and 100 rupees and 500 rupees, and they bring in cash in, and the people are queued in, and the whole day is gone for that simple half an hour transactions. But just imagine if these guys get into the banking system and do these transactions, amount of money that they save, amount of time that they save, and also how convenient would be for each and every party that is involved in certain and these the risk of carrying large transactions, large value of money, those are all mitigated. But this is where we as bankers need to educate certain underbanked segments in the country, especially in the state sector and the rural areas of the bank. But we have to take these technologies to the grassroots level. Then only we will be able to make a real impact on the industry. Anything else that you all want to know about the slip system? Please do join with this discussion, because there's not much of theory that I have to talk with you. So it's all about idea sharing and experience sharing. And I would love to hear all of your voices. Can someone tell me what is going to be the future of slips? Any idea? Or rather, what are the shortfalls of slip system?
Not in real time.
Yes, that's a very good point. It's not real time, as well as from a user's point of view, there is a time limitations. Like I mentioned in the earlier, there are cutoff times, so you need to submit before a particular cutoff time, and if you miss that cutoff time, you will have to either wait for the next circle to come in, or if it's like a Friday evening, then you'll have to wait for next bank working day. Likewise, there are quite a few shortfalls also, but the good part is this is something that can be used. These technologies are very user friendly, and anyone with basic knowledge and with a good educational program, they can use these technologies. These are not rocket science that nobody doesn't understand. So it's simple matter of getting to know the technology and use it. Okay, let's move to the other one. And common electronic fund transfer switch, which is also commonly known as the SEFT. Now, SEFT is the extended version of the slip, and the downside of the slips, like someone mentioned, it's not being real time. This is the solution for that problem. So Lanka Clear, while they introduced this slip facility for banks, they were primarily looking at for banks to facilitate these transactions, but with the need of customers to do fund transfers and waiting for another day to get the money credited into their account, they identified there is a need of from customers' point of view, that it is something very simple. So you credit one person's account and you debit one person's account and credit into another person's account. And all these banking institutes are governed by the central bank, so they have a common platform to work on. So it's just that what is the common platform that all these banks to get together and use it. So that's based on those insights and use cases, the Lanka Clear actually developed the SEPS platform. I must say that with the introduction of SEFT and central bank mandating all banks to participate in this program, this was one of the major turning point of the banking industry. Whereas by the time it was launched and introduced by most of the bank in the country, people had the requirement, but they didn't have the solution. But as soon as this was introduced, the take-up was much higher, and everyone who started using it, they never went back to the old system. For an example, I myself, even though I work in a bank, I have never been to a for the last 2 years, almost 2 years, I have not been to a branch even to do a deposit or a withdrawal or to a fund transfer, simply because everything that I want to do, like day-to-day transactions, I can do it over the phone or over my either through login to internet banking or my mobile banking. I can do it, and the convenience that I get by doing that is immense. Sometimes whenever there is a requirement for me to do a simple fund transfer, even late in the night, there had been certain instances I wanted to do I wanted to get some money, but the card wasn't working. There was issue with the system, and the card wasn't working. And what I did was I transferred that money from the same account to another account in a different bank. Within about 5 minutes, I had that money available in my other account, in which I was able to withdraw, and matter was sorted in 5 minutes. Just imagine if we didn't have that technology available with us, or rather we had to call someone, or rather bank, or we had to ask from someone for money in a situation like that, the consequences that we have to face is undesirable. So that's why the technologies are so important for today's world, especially for customers who are cash rich and time poor. There's a segment of cash rich and time poor. It doesn't mean that they are rich in money, but their richness is purely based on the time that they invest on certain amount of in certain activities. So therefore, building technologies like this can turn around people way of working, and how the best, especially for the working community, their primary requirements are completely sorted by the simple matter of technology development. And I've just listed down few areas just for your knowledge, and once this is being shared with you all, you all can go through the content. But once the SEFT technology was introduced, it was primarily introduced at the counter level, which was not effective as which wasn't effective because the technology of real-time transaction and doing it at a branch over the counter doesn't make any sense, because branches are open 9 to 3, and once the branch is closed, you are unable to do so. Lanka Clear actually found out that problem, and they address it with a completely different approach, whereas they open it up for internet banking, mobile banking, and even at ATMs, kiosk, and other channels. So therefore, the beauty of technology is once you build a basic foundation, and building on top of that is it's really easy, and you just have to think differently what would be the best use case. But instead of just relying on the same platform, you can evolved into different areas. And safety is one of the major contributor for mobile apps to grow fast in the country. If you look at Sri Lanka as a banking community compared to the other countries in the region, we are one of the highest country to use technologies in the banking sector. Even though India is a much larger, much bigger country with a huge economy, their banking population is really low compared to Sri Lanka. Similarly, in the Pakistan, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Singapore is completely different. Their adaptation to the technology is much higher. But we as Sri Lankans, we are a nation with adaptation to the technology is much faster than other countries in our area. So it is a good sign, and especially for bankers, when there's a new technology being introduced, we have to look at two things. Number one, what would be the best scenario, best use case of this technology for the customers, and is it going to be user friendly or is it going to be not user friendly? So when you are developing a technology, when we are introducing a new facility, so we have to always keep in mind that our community doesn't accept anything which is not user friendly. And if it's accepted, it is being accepted widely within a short period. Anything that you all want to know more about the SEFT? Right. Okay, let's move to the other. Common ATM switch. Can someone tell me what is this is about? CAS. Is everyone sleeping or?
No.
Prabhat, tell me what is CAS? I'm going to ask some questions from people. I'm just going to pick.
Actually, to be honest, I'm not aware.
No, I said I'm going to ask from.
It's fine. The answer.
Some people which I'm going to pick.
Okay.
Right. Prabhat, tell me, what do you know about CAS?
To be honest, I'm not aware.
Right. Okay. CAS is a common ATM switch. Now, at the beginning of the discussion, somebody mentioned about LankaPay ATM. Right. Okay. If you look at Sri Lanka has over 5,000 ATM network, and
yeah. Sorry to disturb you.
Yeah.
Question. So LankaPay ATM that then I have gone through my experience, and when I go through the withdraw money to ATM, normally I selected to do the ATM who has a facility with the LankaPay because they are not charging. I mean,
I'm sorry, I didn't follow your question properly.
When I go to the ATM to withdraw my money,
okay,
normally I prioritize to select the ATM who has the facility with LankaPay because they are not, when I go to the different ATM, they have charged some amount.
Yes.
So what is the difference to LankaPay and what is the LankaPay service? I mean, why they are
right? Okay, let me come to that point in a moment. Before that, I'll tell you the background and how this cash actually came into play. Now, if you look at now, currently Sri Lanka has close to 5,000 ATM network in the country, and if you see some banks advertisements few years ago, I have seen couple of advertisements, press ads, and saying, okay, X bank installed their 100 ATM at this location, and Y bank they installed their 500 ATM at this locations. Just imagine a bank country like us. So we are a very small country. So having a 5,000 ATM network is enough and more for a country like us to facilitate cash transactions. But banks had an issue because none of these ATMs are interconnected to each other, and they had to have their own ATM network to facilitate customers to withdraw cash. And therefore, investing on an ATM machine is not just a machine. It's about machine is nowadays, if you look at it, machine is about over 2 million, and building up infrastructure and maintaining it, cash replenishment, and giving up securities and finding locations, paying rent. All these cost a huge amount of money for a bank, and eventually that cost will be passed down to the customer. Therefore, it is a very costly operation for banks to operate individual ATM networks at almost all locations. But if you look at certain cities, towns, where there is about 10 or 15 branches, all the banks have ATMs at least minimum of 2 ATMs at each branch level. Just imagine the cost of maintaining all that to the banking industry, and for a country like ours. Therefore, the Lanka Clear actually came up with a solution connecting these all ATMs around the country into a one common network. It's called Common ATM Switch. That's where all the banks have got together, joined this facility, and where customers can withdraw money from any ATM island-wide from their account. It does. For an example, if I have an account with commercial bank, I can visit to a HNB ATM and withdraw money. But there is a cost in it. But just imagine the convenience. And for a smaller bank like SDB, where I work at the moment, at the time of I was joining the bank, we had only 12 ATMs, 11 ATMs. Currently, we have 12, but it was a miserable experience for our customers because they were complaining that they can't withdraw money from because we have 94 branches island-wide, and having only 12 ATMs, they cannot withdraw money. If they go to a other bank ATM, and Visa charge will be about 50 to 100 rupees, depending on the bank. And nobody wants to pay such amount to withdraw money. So bank like SDB, and it's a great opportunity to join the common ATM network, whereas now our customers have the opportunity to withdraw from over 5,000 ATMs in the country. That's the beauty of technology and being introduced, and also getting all the banks to work in an interoperable environment, and thereby it's kind of saving a lot of money to the nations. Just imagine all these banks are going to import teller machines and CRMs to CDMs and install at all these locations. Our country will be heavily patronized with ATM machines. But whereas now even central bank is not allowing to install many ATMs, this is the technology that has been built to address the issue and serve the customer in any time. Any questions? And sorry, Prabhat, sorry, I forgot to address your question. Now, before this cash technology came into play, all these ATMs are connected by the Visa. If you can remember, most of the ATMs are still having the logo of plus sign. That was the technology given by a Visa, where they are connected. They have connected each of these networks through a common switch. And if somebody wants to go and withdraw, a Sampath Bank customer want to go and withdraw from a commercial bank, they can actually do that. But the cost of the transaction is much higher. If you want to withdraw 500 rupees, your withdrawal fee will be about 100 rupees. And that money goes away from the country itself. So that's why Lanka Clear has built this technology where customers can do transactions at a lower cost, and the banks are also getting the benefit of joining the network. Hope I answered your question, Prabhat.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to pick some names, and you'll have to tell me. Okay, Tilina Jayasurya. Are you in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tilina, tell me, what is the cost of a transaction when you perform at a Lanka Pay ATM?
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Tilna, did you hear?
No, sir. Just tell me the question again.
Okay. Do you know how much is the cost of a transaction when you perform a ATM withdrawal at a Lanka Pay ATM?
It must be 30 rupees.
Okay. Any idea why it is 30 rupees, whereas if you do it on your own bank ATM,
okay,
it's about 5 rupees or 10 rupees. Why is about 30 rupees?
That must be a common charges.
Yes, because even though these technologies are built to cater to the banking community, I mean the banks and the customers, there is always cost for all these transactions. So
yes,
in order to make it a viable business, we there is a cost element involved in it. Some customers may think, okay, paying a 30 rupee fee for the cash withdrawal is way too high. But just imagine someone in a remote area and having their bank in a completely different location and drive up to that location just to withdraw money. He must be spending more than 30 rupees just to get that money. So
yes.
That's why the fees are also involved in such activities. Thank you, Tilna. Thank you for your participation. Right. And next is shared ATM switch. Now that is something. Now we spoke about this 30 rupee cost. In order to address this issue, Lanka Clear has introduced this shared ATM switch facility, whereas if banks joined in this SaaS community, cost of transaction of 30 rupees is not going to be there. But it is it's not used by most of the banks. It's only 2 banks that are using at the moment, because most of the banks are using Visa and Master International payment cards, and these payment cards are not acceptable with the SaaS shared ATM switch. So Lanka Clear is actually working on developing this area. So with that, we will be able to do ATM transactions at much lower cost. If you look at India, now India, in India, Indian banking industry has made a revolutionary decision a few years ago that they will go into one common ATM network. Whereas if you look at India, they are divided by provinces. So some provinces are using, even though it's the same currency, but their mode of transactions are completely different. So they had so much of irregular payment methods simply because they didn't have a common platform to do transactions. So as you can see, Paytm is one of the major contributor to India, where they are not it's not a bank, it's a completely different organization. So what they did was they white labeled ATMs. They connected most of the banks in the India to Paytm network, and they facilitated transactions. So thereby, anyone who is in anywhere in the country with a Paytm card, they can do transactions. So we have a lot of use cases in the region, in the world, in other countries, and we can look at these sort of developments and get the best learnings and implement it in our country. And I must say, SEFT was launched in Sri Lanka even before it was launched in India. So we are one of the pioneers in the region to come up with technologies like SEFT.
So, excuse me, regarding that SAS, you told SATs that not in that visa. So, if a visa card, if you're having a visa card, somebody having a visa card, how can they withdraw from in abroad or somewhere in overseas?
If he's not having a visa card.
Yeah, because now normally visa machines that if we're having a visa, so that's very easy to withdraw from overseas also, no. But
Yes.
if we now in future SASIs come, so that means visa not included in the
That is
visa.
already here, Shihan. What is going to happen is now, like the LankaPay ATM network, the SAS is going to facilitate local transactions. But what Lanka Clear is trying to do is the same facility to income with the Visa and MasterCard. So the same card can be used locally in a different platform, and the same card can be used overseas for overseas transactions.
Okay, got it.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry to disturb you.
No
So one question. I haven't seen that master debit card. Maybe my knowledge is lack of my knowledge. But is there any debit card under master?
Yes. Currently, FreeMe is issuing MasterCards as a debit proposition.
Because the credit card we haven't seen that we under Visa and Master, but
yes.
Why is that? Why is that, sir? Because that Master is not popular within the market.
It's not like that. If you look at the card industry, MasterCard was the first to be more popular in the country, Sri Lanka. But for certain reasons, they were not heavily promoting master propositions, and eventually Visa took that opportunity and they kind of heavily patronized the Asian market. But if you look at MasterCard, it is the leader in the Europe and USA markets. It's up to the bank to decide which card type to use, either Master or the Visa. And Visa was actually here at the right time when banks are started issuing cards. So they gave different kind of different sort of proposals, different sort of offerings to banks to offer cards, and banks actually took that advantage and issued Visa card. But now Mastercard is also slowly coming into the market, but it's up to the bank to decide which card type.
That's right. Okay. Could you please explain, sir, that I have when I go to the ATM, I have seen some logos, Diners Club, and
Yeah.
others. Could you please explain what are those?
Those are also the similar to Visa and Master. And
Those are kind of banking service provider.
they are a payment platform providers. They are not bank actually.
They are not. Yeah.
Similar to Visa and Master. So now Diners Club is more of a affluent product, which is catering to Europe and Schengen countries. So now there's a certain segment of customers who are wealthy and looking for different sort of approaches. So
It's
they
like
have,
when we it's like our priority bank customers.
yes, like priority customers. Now Diners Club is primarily focused on those customers, so they have different offerings to people who are using Diners Club cards, and different reward schemes, different offerings like different interest schemes. Like there are different sort of propositions in the market, but most commonly used to another Visa and the Master.
So what is the difference Visa and Amex, sir?
There's no such difference. The primary objective of any of these card schemes are the same. It's that their propositions are different.
Okay.
Now Visa is more of a mass market product. Mastercard is also the same, and Diners Club is a more of an affinity product, and Amex is serving to a different customer segment. Likewise, the primary offering or the primary work of all these payment network are the same, but their offerings and the packages are different to each other.
Okay. In payment platform, they also catering the customer sector customers, right?
Yes. Now, if you look at now, Visa has a few different card types, starting from silver, gold, then platinum. Likewise, their top end card is the Visa Infinite. So, if a bank to issue Visa Infinite card, there are certain guidelines. So, there has to be a minimum number of amount in the account, and the propositions is completely different. These are all differentiations that payment card industry has done just to capture different levels of market. Now, if you look at the card industry, which is a very, very interesting subject to talk about, and especially in the Middle East area, they have launched metal cards. They have launched cards with diamond studded, and some are with gold plated, and just to make a difference in there. For an example, someone with a high network income, and they just go to a restaurant, and when they're paying with a diamond studded card, they want that affiliation, they want that recognition. So these are the tools that these industries have used just to make a difference among others.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Clear.
Right. Okay. This is another technology which is being introduced to the market. It's called CPS, Common POS Switch. How many of you know how does this POS network works? We discussed about this in our previous discussions. Can anyone tell me how does it work in a technical formalities? Okay, since there's no response, I'll explain it to you now. When you go and do post transactions, or rather card transactions at a merchant, how does it work is, let's say I go and use my STB debit card at Cargill's, and that machine, or the rather terminal, is provided by the Sampath Bank. And Sampath Bank, sorry, the Cargill's account, the main account, the clearing account is with Commercial Bank. Okay. And when I do a transaction, let's say for 1,000 rupees, my account get debited for 1,000 rupees, and there is a commission. Let's say the commission is 3 rupees, and this 30 rupees are shared between my bank, which is the STB bank, and which is the issuer bank, and terminal provider is Sampath Bank, which is the acquirer, and the settlement bank is Commercial Bank. So the 30 rupees is shared between Visa, STB Bank, and Sampath Bank, and only 970 rupees will be credited to Commercial Bank. So that's how the POS network works, the financials work. So if you go into the details, if you all want, just let me know. I will go into the details of how the transaction flow works. But to give you a better understanding on the financials, that's how the common network works. And this 30 rupee is shared among the Visa issuer and the acquirer. And this cost, if you really notice, now Sri Lanka is doing quite a huge number of post transactions, and these rupees are actually, which is Visa is earning, is going out of the country. So that's why certain countries like Russia, China, they have introduced the common post switch, where the merchants, we can actually do transactions at a lower pace, and countries, the money will not go out of the country. So that's why Lanka Pay has introduced the CPS, which was launched in 2019, facilitates transactions carried out through payment card issued under the NCS, right? That means National Card Scheme, and the main function of CPS is switching and clearing, not on us post transaction between Lanka Pay and acquirer and issuers. This will come into play very soon now, because this was supposed to be launched during the this year and last year, but with the COVID situation, it was postponed for next year. Probably this will come in next year, and these are the initiatives that has been taken place to reduce the outflow of foreign currency from Sri Lanka. So if we look at it from a national point of view, these are the technologies that need for a country like ours, because we don't have much of foreign resource. So it's not viable to stop importing essential goods. But if we can bring out technologies like these and introduce in the banking sector, whereas major part of the transactions are happening in the banking and the payment industry, we as a community will be able to help a national cause by reducing outflow of the foreign currencies in the country. I hope I clearly explained this. If anyone wants to know more about this one? Right, let's move into the other one. Another interesting topic, I would say, most commonly used term in the payment industry now, it's the Lanka QR. So what is a QR? I think probably if you read by the name, it says the quick response code. How does it work is now, if you look at POS technology or the ATM technology, these are, even though these are more customer friendly and more user friendly, but in terms of from a bank's point of view, these are costly businesses. And just imagine setting up a ATM is, the machine is about 2 million. I explained the cost factors involved in it. And if you look at a POS terminal, the minimum POS terminal would be about 50,000 now. And putting up about 1,000 terminals, you need minimum of 50 million rupees to deploy terminal network. But the QR technology, which was introduced to the world, like it was popularized by actually China with QR payments. Now this is the way, I would say, future of transactional banking. Even though other instruments are being used, if you look at our younger generations to come, they don't carry wallets, but they will never go out of the home or their workplace without a phone, and they can keep their money or they can do all these transactions from their mobile itself. And Lanka QR is an initiative done by Lanka Clear itself, where you can pay any merchant or any service or anyone by simply scanning the QR code. Now, all major banks are issuing payment platforms like payment apps. They are using this technology, and it is similar to the backend work, similar to the POS network, where there is a issuer and acquirer and merchant and bank involved. So your cost of a transaction is, it will be more about 1% of the transaction value, and then 1% can be shared among all these issuers and acquirers, because your initial investment is very low. You can even print a QR code in a A4 paper and place it on your the merchant can place it on their counter, and transaction can be facilitated. So we will talk more about Lanka QR transactions and how the facilities, how it facilitates the community in, going into a cashless transaction in our next session. So I just touch upon how does it work, and as if you can see in the this slide, this has significantly grown from last year to this year. All the major banks are now, if you see in table 24, there are we have seen only almost 100,000 POS terminals in the country, but within the last 2 years, there are over 224,000 merchants which are QR enabled. So it can be even a parani no, I believe we couldn't even to a 5-star hotel. These transactions can be facilitated through QR transactions. So I would say this is the future of transaction, and the technology is being built based on the QR values. Any gray areas or anything that you want to know about the QR transactions?
So, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I haven't seen that when we go to when we flying overseas, they are not what you call when we want to go visit to somewhere by using the common platform. I mean the let's say bus. They don't have a conductor. They are just tap into the card, and the card can recharge. They have minimized the cash transaction by using that technology. As a country, why we can't implement it?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow your question properly. First part of it, actually, Prabha.
Yeah, when we go to the maybe you do have a same experience when we flying to the overseas,
Okay.
and while we are transiting to the what you call public transport, they don't have a what do you call that? Let's say bus. They don't have conductors. They do have only credit card, and by tapping that all the areas, we can we can go here and there. As a country, why we can't do that?
It is actually in progress in Sri Lanka because for a country like ours to introduce that sort of a technology, it requires a lot of efforts, not only from banks' point of view, but transport card scheme is currently under progress. It was launched in 2019, but currently it's the workings are being done at the moment. But this is a common effort for a country like now. Transport Authority, Government of Sri Lanka, people, banks, telco providers, they all have to participate in this exercise. Especially if we be open about the issues why it is not being done properly. You know how the bus conductors work. I'm not blaming them, but there is way of working in the country. So if we digitalize these transactions, there's always negative impact on their minds. Bus owners or probably the authorities may like it, but the people actually who are on the ground level are resistant to get into these technologies. So I think government is planning to launch this facility with the railway department first.
Okay.
And once that is in place, it'll be good for the country, because if you look at now, as a country, we are heavily subsidized on tourism, and we promote as a destination. We promote all our beaches to heritage sites, to all these places. But from a tourist point of view, for them to travel from one point to another point, it's a classic example, I'll tell you, because I have a friend who came from overseas. He's a British citizen who came down a few years ago, and he was waiting to go to Ella just to see the scenery. But what we are promoting is a train going in this 9-notch bridge. But for him to get a ticket and go in, travel from Colombo to that destination, it took almost about 2 days, because there's no seats available, and he was unable to book a train. The government and other related organizations, institutions has to address these issues. Otherwise, we will not go anywhere as a nation. But
Yeah,
I must say,
definitely, sir.
if you look at the banking industry, Sri Lankan banking industry is much better than any other industries in the country.
But when we compare into the whole world, sir, we are now entire world in a digitalized stage. Now they are transferring, and I noticed that some of Singapore bank, they have a bank, what do you call that? They all the operation are under working all the operation are working by using technology.
You are absolutely correct, Prabhat. But I must say that we as a country now, if you look at Sri Lanka, our mobile penetration is more than 100%. So that means most of us are having more than one phones, and our adaptation to technology is much faster, especially with our younger generation. So even myself, when we build technologies to cater our customers, we always looked at what would be the technology that younger generations want. We always thought that the older generations, they will never get into the technology, or they will never adapt to this technology. But COVID was a real eye opener for everyone. Whereas in a matter of few weeks, the entire the entire country or the entire world had to stop. We had to look at different ways of working, different ways of connecting people, different ways of how we can connect with customers. So it's not only for banks; it's for everyone. Now, with COVID, I must say it's a disease and it's a disaster to the entire world. But it's also an opportunity for people to look at things in a different way, where traditional ways of working, traditional comfort zones of people working have completely changed. And especially for banks now, I will tell you another example now. I told you that we have only 12 ATMs with the bank, but people were we had only 12 on ATM network, but we are connected to 5,000 ATM network in the country. But in a lockdown situation, nobody can go out and withdraw money, but still people had to do their day-to-day purchases, buy their essential goods, and nobody is keeping money with their accounts. So we actually wanted to find a solution. So the immediate solution what we did was we tweak our technology with our mobile app. So we went we arranged to transport vehicles to go into different places like schemes and wherever people wanted to withdraw. We gave that technology using our POS terminals where they can do a transaction and withdraw cash from the vehicle itself. So those are the new experiences and new learnings that we gained.
Yes, thank you, sir. That just to because just want to suggest, sir, because you are holding a good position in another bank. To be when I talk about my bank, we do have only seven branch in the whole country.
Okay.
It's also located to the Colombo area, but
Okay.
all the customers are working like you said earlier. They are using their what they call withdrawing money with the pandemic situation. So just suggest if you can what you call that come up with the solution with their your level, that would be the great to the entire country, because we need to we can mitigate the cashless transaction, and we can what you call go to the better platform to in order to what you call increase our economy and sustain our economy, sir.
Sure, Prabha. And my next point is actually our next discussion. I'll quickly move into that. It's to address such issues now. Have you heard the term called BaaS, the rise of banking as a service? Anyone heard? Okay, now can someone tell me what is the future of, is it bank or banking, or rather difference of bank and banking?
It is banking.
It is banking. Okay. Why it is banking, not bank?
Self banking in the future, they can do self banking, no need to go for the bank.
Yeah, everyone needs banking, but especially in the current context and the future that we are looking at, everyone needs banking, but nobody wants to stick into a one bank. Okay, I must say I am a loyal customer to this bank. People will pick and choose services from whatever the bank that they prefer. So he can have a account in a different bank, he can have a loan in another bank, he can have a card from another bank, which is the case at the moment. But all of these are going to be connected to one single platform. So that is what is called BaaS. And banking as a service is an end-to-end process ensuring the overall execution of a financial service provided over the web, such as digital banking services available on demand and operates within a set time frame. What does it mean is, now I may see a certain bank giving high interest rate on a savings account. I will be able to transfer my excess amount or whatever the savings money that I have with a particular bank into that account within a matter of few seconds. Same time, I have a credit card from a different bank. Similarly, I will be able to use the pay the credit card bill using the same platform. So the BaaS technology is another form of, I would say, open banking API, open banking concept, whereas all the banks and the technology providers to fintech companies to utility service providers, they all can get together, work as a one single community to cater the community. If I may explain it to you in a better way, if you look at the first backend system, banks have different systems. For example, we have our core banking system where we calculate how much interest is generated on a savings account, what is the monthly rental of a loan or lease insurance facility. These are all banking activities. But if you look at paying a utility bill, it's not a core banking business, but it is related to bank, or it is rather related to the customer requirement. So we have to think from a customer point of view. We have to observe and identify what is his lifestyle, how best all these service providers to innovative companies, the tech providers, and can get together and serve to a purpose of a customer. So that's how all these third-party developer communities now, like I mentioned, Paytm is a good example. They are nothing. They have nothing to do with banks. They have a license to do banking, but they identified a problem in the India that customers doesn't have solutions to withdraw money from other banks, so they addressed that. Similarly, Google Pay came into play, Amazon and Apple Pay. They all of these players are finding new solutions. And if you look at China is a really good example. WeChat, Alipay. WeChat was it's a chat group, but they identified a problem, and same time they found a solution with a different approach. So how it's going to work is, all these fintech companies and banks, the backend systems, they will have open APIs. So they will connect these APIs using web and mobile applications and provide services to customers. The customer can be in Sri Lanka or any other country, and he can be in a city area or a remote area. Even he can be in anywhere. It can be it's a 24-hour offer that anyone can use it. So why does it important for in every industry is, so when you get together, when you collaborate, you have a wider reach. You can now if one bank get connected with a telco company, so both parties can reach much wider network in the country, and that means you are using internet-based services. So your cost is significantly low, and your revenues are way above. And when your cost is significantly low, you can pass down to the customer and get customers to do more and more transactions or any services with the service provider. And when you collaborate and get together, the innovation happens much faster. So, in our next session, I'm going to talk more about how the digital technology is going to affect the banking industry, and especially the lifestyle of the people. Now, for an example, if you look at UPay is a classic example of how API banking and all these collaborations have partnered. So I ask all of you to download the UPay application and just go through the facilities. So you can connect any bank account. It doesn't have to be SDB account or anything. You can connect any bank and do transactions. You can pay utility bills, you can pay QR transactions, you can do doctor appointments, and you can use the UCL facility to request funds and do merchant level transactions. And this is the beauty of technology and being collaborative with different parties. So it doesn't have to, we don't know our next competitor would be a group of three or four people who are technocrats and trying to identify some new technologies and capture the market. Probably the banks, like now we see we are the largest bank in the country with this much of portfolio, but in few years times to come, it can be another small organization with about 10-15 staff members and having the major stakeholder of the banking industry. So we never know how the technology can move in the next couple of years, because customers are growing at a faster rate, their requirements are changing, and it's up to us to identify where the need. It doesn't have to, we can't play in a isolated area. So we have to all get together and develop the industry.
So that means, according to that bus, that means several banks may be in there.
Sorry, I didn't follow you, Shreya.
So according to the bus, so that means several banks can include in one.
Yes. Now, if you download UPay, you can add any bank account to UPay platform. But
so that means I can, if I having any app like that, so that I can view any bank accounts, any bank account.
No, you can't view any bank account. That facility is not there yet. But once the open banking API is launched, it's actually launched, but it's not in used in the country at the moment. But once that is in use, people will be able to pick and choose or check balances. It's a very simple technology, but it's not done yet. It's not available with all the banks yet.
Okay, right. Thanks.
Now, recently, the government of Sri Lanka introduced this telco to have one common number, whereas your last 6 digit will be same and interoperable network system. Similarly, it will come to the banking industry also, where open API banking will come into play very soon. Then the banking business will be completely different to what you and I are experiencing at the moment. Right. Any other questions, or rather, we are open for discussion, because next week we are going to talk about a lot of new developments and especially the digital banking sector. So I want you all to do some research and especially in today's context, I spoke about mainly what are the technologies and the services that are being used in the country. I purposely didn't take any examples from the world because I want you all to go and do a research on what are the technologies that are being used in other countries, especially when it comes to distribution channels, how customers, because in today's world, self-learning is the best learning, and there are enough and more opportunities for people to do self-learning. And if you go to YouTube or Google or and type anything, you will have enough and more case studies and use cases to get to know how the banking industry has evolved from Stone Age to up to these days. And we will be able to share among us all these use cases and any interesting fact. Please do share with all of us, because like I'm sharing my knowledge and experience, what I have gathered with you. I also would like to learn from you all, saying, okay, these technologies have, especially like developing countries in African region and South Asian region, there are enough and more stories that we can share how the technology-based, the digital banking has evolved, especially in countries like Kenya. The entire nation has evolved from just by one single effort of a banking industry. Once you get all of these people connected to do banking transactions, their way of living, their way of transacting, everything gets changed. So it's a this is a very interesting subject, and I would like to ask all of you to go and do a lot of researches and reach me out for any references or any questions that you all want to ask. And by the time when we meet next week, I want you all to have a more of interactive sessions to share what's new happening in the world right now and what's going to happen in the next few years. Because 2 years ago, what we have practiced and what we have learned is no more there. All these technologies that we spoke from afternoon up to now will not be usable. We don't know. It can be a completely different technology that we will use in the next few years. Biometric is going to play a huge role, and people will move into different currencies. The cryptocurrencies, the bitcoins, all are coming into play. So social media is playing a huge role. So that's something that we have to look for discussion in the next week. So any questions, anything that you all want to discuss before we end up the session?